Hey, everybody. Last night of March. I don't know how you celebrate, but we celebrate with a Deep End Dynasty podcast. 4 weeks from the draft, 4 weeks from now, we are shouting at each other on Twitter about why would the Packers have picked another quarterback in the first round. Things like that. Cannot wait. We are getting into the deep end tonight, right, Adam? Cody Carpentier will join, and we asked him for a few rookies he wants to talk about. He's been to pro days, and he knows it. And he gave us a serious hashtag deep end list. So let's get right to the Sharks and talk for a minute, then talk to Cody. Welcome to the deep end. So in sports radio, once in a while, someone tries to prank you with a made-up name. Like they'll call, what do you guys think about John McEntee this draft season? And, like, oh, no, you try not to be embarrassed. You're like, oh, no, he's going to be good. And then you realize he's your friend, your caller's friend. And so, I mean, I follow it a little bit. So do you. Cody sent us a list of names. Holy cow. I mean, this is definitely deep-end caliber.
Yeah, for sure. And I know you were like, hey, are you good with these names? I want to get better and learn myself. That's why I'm here. That's why this is the deep end. And he's gonna bring up some names that I haven't gotten to yet. So I'm super excited about that.
There is a chance he'll bring up a name of a friend of his, and we will not notice. We will not know.
I will
that
pretend like I know these guys. So.
I can't wait. All right, before we do that, a quick thing. So Billy Muzio has been on with us in the past, and most fantasy players who are all over social media know who Billy is at this point, I think. And he invited us into a high-stakes dynasty. It's deep-end dynasty, high-stakes, deep-end combined. It's everything we do combined. Now, you and I are going to be partners in this. And so how does that work? Like I felt comfortable offering that or asking that of you, Adam, because I know you have dynasty teams that you split, and I don't. I feel like this is not exactly kosher for me. This is a little bit hard for me to share decision-making. How do you feel about it? How do you think it'll go?
Yeah, I think it'll go fine, especially with, it's 4 hours a pick, right? So we can talk, we can text, we can whatever. It's a much harder. I've done higher stakes leagues than this with partners. No, I'm saying with partners that we've been able to work through it with 30 seconds a pick or a minute a pick. So I'm not worried about that at all. So yeah, I think it's going to be really fun. What's going to be interesting is the trading and who we want to target for trading and what we haven't even talked about, like what we want our draft strategy to be. Do we want to stay put, trade up, trade back? It's been fun already in the chat with people talking about how they won't join unless it's more money or whatever. It's just great. It's just so much fun.
Yes, and let me just say apologies to the guys who can't be bothered to join $1,000 annual commitment.
That's right.
In this thing.
That's right. This is the deep end, Mike. It's the deep end.
I feel like I need it, and it's the draft, but it's also trades, like you brought that up, and even lineups, perhaps. I mean, I've split teams, and I'm confident that you and I have a good back and forth. Pros versus Joes last year, we figured it out. That's a key thing. You can't partner with just anybody.
Right.
So you have to have a basic understanding, the same sort of principles or process. You have to sort of have some kind of common ground when it comes to process. And then also, like, all right, who's going to be the captain now? Do you really want this? Is it 80-20? Is it 60-40? And I'll give you this one, but you have to assume they're going to do that for you. And Louis G and I think, have a good balance when it comes to that. I think you and I will too. So by we, I mean me, we are going to find out what being in a $1,000 dynasty league is like, against like the best of the best too. I mean,
sure. Yeah. It's going to be, we're going to have lots of, it's good for content. We're going to have lots of content every week.
Oh, see, that's the problem. The problem is content. You're like, oh, I'll just do this, in radio. I'll sit on the top of the billboard for a month because I don't have anything else. I'm just going to do it. I know it's good for work. I know it's good for business. So I am not doing this for content. I've got plenty to say. If we're doing this for content, let's just make a new plan because I don't.
No, we're doing it we're doing it to win. Okay, and if there's anything,
we're doing it to win.
And if there's anything worth ruining a friendship over, it's fantasy football. Okay? So don't worry about it.
All right. On that note, let's welcome our guest, Cody Carpentier.
Yes.
This guy, I have admired this guy's work for a year. It was last summer when we met Cody at the Expo in Canton. Yep. And I'm getting ready for draft season this year. And here's Cody. I mean, Malik Willis has his pro day and everybody on Twitter is talking about it. And then Cody comes on with a video like, all right, he's in his car, Adam. He's like, all right, I was just there. I was in the room. This is what happened. It's perfectly clear and smart and good. So, Cody, it is our pleasure to welcome you to the deep end. Thanks for doing this.
I appreciate that, and when you said come to the deep end, I was like, hey, I heard you talking about, all the deep prospects I sent you. I was like, hey, we're going to deep end. I got to bring it. I didn't know what you guys were up to. So, but the Malik Willis thing was awesome. And I just appreciate you guys bringing me on to chop it up with some rookies and some Dynasty. So I really appreciate it.
Yes, our pleasure. And I remember meeting Cody and Zach and everybody at the Expo at the bar. And then
that's right.
Hillard came along and just bought for everybody.
That's
we're hoping to recreate that.
What a night. Are you going, Cody? You going again this year?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I heard it was filling up really quick. So, last year I think I waited till, I don't know, maybe June to get my tickets for it. And I saw everyone was like filling up. And I think I got like one of the last rooms at the DoubleTree. And I was like, phew.
Oh, he's rubbing it in our face now.
Got lucky on that.
He doesn't know we got squeezed on that.
I wonder if I squeezed you. I wonder.
No, you made it.
That's
fine.
Totally squeezed us.
It went to a true OG. Well, you know what helped that Expo last year was weather, because that Saturday night when we're out at that downtown pavilion and the Browns game is on and that's a perfect summer night.
That's football weather to me right there.
It was very nice.
Very nice. All right, Cody. So the NFL draft, a month away, 4 weeks from tonight, we'll be arguing about first round picks. When it comes to quarterbacks, if we can start there, it seems like that's where most of these conversations should start. I mentioned Willis already. How many quarterbacks do you see going? Maybe what would be your guess in the first round? And how much separation do you think there is or should be between Willis and the others?
I think there should be more separation than there is. I do think, Pickett deserves that first round conversation. Corral and Howell, I think, are a lot closer than people think. I think a lot of people have Corral, quite a bit further ahead. And the Corral thing also, his stock has fallen a little bit just because he missed, the Senior Bowl. He missed the opportunity to go to and really throw at the combine. And then he threw last week at Ole Miss. He hasn't run. We just haven't seen a lot because he got injured in the bowl game. But overall, being at the Senior Bowl, being at the combine, being to Malik's pro day, to me, he is the furthest along out of all these guys. Day one in the NFL, pro ready, I would probably take Desmond Ridder. And I think he might be getting an unfair shake as well in this whole process. But, I think Malik, from an overall, upside standpoint, I think Malik should be quite a bit ahead of these guys. And to answer your question, how many guys I think are going to go in round one, Bucky Brooks dropped a mock the other day with none. Daniel Jeremiah had a mock with one guy going, and both these guys then the next day go and do a pod and they're talking about, actually, I think this and this and this, but it's kind of weird how they go back and forth on that stuff. But for me, I had a mock out this last week and I had 4 going off the board. The fourth one was Pickett at 31. I think a good number, I don't know what the Vegas number is right now, if it's 2.5 or 3.5, but I think there's a good chance we see 4 guys going off the board. Do they deserve to go off the board all in round one? No. The talent level's not up there, but I think they will, just because the amount of teams that need something. There's only going to be a couple quarterbacks next year that everyone's looking at, right? They at least need someone to get in the door. You need to have Carolina's in that situation. Atlanta could use the dart. They could throw the dart. Washington could use somebody. Seattle could throw the dart. There's a lot of teams that just could throw the dart. Detroit, I think you're going to see 4 guys go off the board.
Yeah, I agree with you there. They always end up finding a way, right, in the first round there. And I was thinking too, they the 40-yard dash is like the thing for the running backs and the receivers. Okay, let's see what their 40-yard dash is. is the new thing for the quarterbacks when they run that play action, roll out left, swivel the hips, and launch it as far as they can. Malik did it. I've seen people have been throwing the Josh Allen one up there. Zach Wilson, that was his claim to fame last year. Is that the new thing? I mean, they've probably been doing that throw, but I don't know. Ever since social media the last couple of years, is that the new thing for the quarterbacks?
It's bad when you started the question and I knew it was coming, because that's exactly what everyone went to, right? Was the Josh Allen one, and it's that exact roll out left, come back all the way around right, and they make it look like it's a lot harder than it actually is to make that throw. But again, they got 2 feet planted. It wasn't like the Mahomes ones you see in the game where he's off centered and does it. But yeah, exactly what you said. Josh Allen, Zach Wilson, Malik did it. And then of course, what was it the next day was Corral had to come out and do it. I think Ritter even tried it. I don't know. Yeah. I didn't watch Zappy today, but yeah, that's the new thing. It's like, hey, how far can you throw? And it's like, oh, Willis threw 66 yards. And I was like, yeah, that was a nice throw or whatever. And then people are like, it was actually 74 because it was across. And I was like, really? Yeah, that's what we're doing. Right. We're measuring, like Jamarcus Russell could throw it out the stadium, but did that really get him very far? No. So that's funny. But yeah.
And on Allen, his first 2 years in the league, he overthrew every deep pass by 5 yards. So it was great that he could throw it forever, but that's not the name of the game, I guess.
And with Allen too, and this, especially being up in Buffalo, is it's not like he came into the league and he had the intangibles. He worked with Palmer for a couple of years and it came around eventually. He got all of his technique fixed. So coming in day one, and it just, that's just not it. The distance thing is it is what it is. It's but Josh Allen's one. Yeah. I mean, I've seen that comp with Malik Willis too, and I couldn't be further from the truth in my opinion.
Listen, Cody, I mean, one of these days, this is our 3rd year. This whole thing between Adam and me is headed for sort of a God versus science, evolution conversation, because Allen is a miracle. He is a miracle. His running sort of blew our minds right away early on, and it might have kept him on the field, because year 2 they make the playoffs anyway, and he was definitely getting better by year 2, but his running and his rushing touchdown numbers are just so amazing that they had the draft pick investment and they were going to keep going, so there was nothing surprising about that. But man, what a topic he is.
I was gonna say, wasn't it was it his rookie year? I was in Minnesota. They came to Minnesota, and they were 17-point dogs. Yeah. And we had sold our season tickets, and we went up north camping for the weekend with a whole group of dudes, and we went into a small bar to watch this game. We were like, oh, Minnesota's going to kill them. And I think they were 16 or 17-point dogs. I think that was Allen's rookie year, and we ended up losing by 30. And that's when he jumped over Anthony Barr, and I was like, okay, you got to think about this one a little differently. So
it was like a minute away from being Minnesota's first home shutout loss ever. Mm-hmm. It was a Pastor Rudolph right at the end, 24/7. But yes, it was. We were talking to Scott Fish about that because I just met him, and he's up there, and what are you guys doing? What is this? Is not supposed to happen. That's so right. Memorable game, right? That's his first win.
Hey, real quick before we move on from quarterbacks, Andy asks, is a Malik Willis Tyrod Taylor? Or maybe he's telling us.
He's not asking. Yeah, he wants us to know.
Do you see that?
Yeah. Andy knows. Andy's my co-host on the Futurecast, and I've discussed this topic with him before. Year and a half ago. It's way back on the Twitter threads, but I pulled the Tyrod Taylor comp for Malik Willis. I think he's improved. That was a year and a half ago, so I think he's improved vastly. But yeah, I think that's a close. A lot of people want to point to Vic. They want to point to Robert Griffin. They're like, oh, he's got legs, and then they want to go Josh Allen because he got the arm, and it's like, I think he's more of a Mariota, Tyrod Taylor, Justin Fields, in that mold. He's a big dude. He's a thick dude throughout calves, quads, shoulders. Everything's way bigger in this dude than those slimmer guys. So yeah, Tyrod, Mariota, Fields. I think that's where he profiles best. So yeah, Andy knows.
Superflex 101. Is he the pick at this point? We don't know landing spot yet, and does that decide what we do?
It's very close. A couple weeks ago we had Breece Hall clear shot 101. Willis has closed that gap mightily. I think he will be a top 5 pick, and if he's a top 5 pick, we're probably going to get some day one usage. If it's not week 1, it's probably going to be week 4, week 5, whatever the situation may be. And I think with his rushing upside and his passing ability, I think ideally you get that, 6-8 weeks of resting behind somebody, like a lock or whoever it may be. And then he comes out, but I think it's really close. It's razor thin to the point where it's exactly what your team needs. If you have Big Ben and Brady as your only quarterbacks in your super flex, 100% I'm hitting that quarterback button. But if you have a little quarterback stability, then I'm going running back. And I think that's exactly how you have to weigh it at this point going into the draft without knowing.
Yeah. So Hall is the player there. Let's move to running backs. Hall and Kenneth Walker. There's a little bit of space there in the betting lines. And then there's a big space after Walker. Do you feel like they have that right?
Yes. You're talking from the betting lines, like as far as getting drafted
when they get drafted, right?
Yeah, I think so too. And in fantasy, especially, the difference is exactly like that. It's Hall, Walker, and then the field, and the field's a big drop off after that. From the draft standpoint, all I've seen is Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker in the first 2 rounds. I've seen a little dabble of James Cook. I think the Spiller thing's dying off a little bit, but I do still think he's going to be a second-round pick because I think the NFL likes him a lot more than the media has started to. Some part of me still believes that there's a chance some team might take what Kenneth Walker did last year and weight more heavy than what Breece has done the last few years, which I don't agree with. But we saw it with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We've seen it in years prior. The recency bias. I don't know. I'm all in on Breece Hall as the first running back off the board, but it wouldn't shock me if Kenneth's 2021 season maybe pushes him over the top for a specific team that maybe doesn't value things correctly or something,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that reminds me of the CEH draft a couple of years ago where, we all kind of liked everybody. I mean, I liked CEH as like, oh man, when he goes in the 3rd round to some team, I'm going to snatch him up and guys aren't going to expect it. And then he went in the 1st round. Yeah. But I don't think nobody had him as the number 1.
Nobody
as a number 1 NFL prospect. So yeah, I mean, it's crazier stuff has happened. I just absolutely love Breece Hall so much. I think he's going to be a stud for whoever. He's got the size, the speed. I don't know about the footwork in the vision. That's not my forte, but yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be really, really good.
I think so too. I think everything with Breece is technically sound. He makes the bad stuff look good, in my opinion. That's really what elevates one guy from another. Kenneth Walker, we didn't see all the receiving work, but there's rumors that there's some practice footage out there that Daniel Jeremiah got, but nobody else got. That he's a pretty good pass catcher. So if that's true, if the NFL got that footage, maybe there's a bump there. But again, like you said, I don't see anything wrong with Breece's profile. I think Breece has a pretty clear-cut, almost perfect profile. And when you bring up the comparables on Player Profiler from a college metric standpoint and an athleticism standpoint, the top 5 comps, that's how we do it. We have a best comparable and then 5 close comparables. It's a nasty crew of guys. We got Jonathan Taylor, LT, Barkley, Herschel Walker, like the whole top end of these guys.
There's no room for Bo Jackson on that list, or
that's what I'm like. It's literally JT, Adrian Peterson, Herschel, LaDainian, and Saquon Barkley. Like that is as high as you can get in the database.
Yeah. And
from what he did in college, almost 4,000 yards, almost 60 touchdowns, a 44% college dominator. The athleticism he showed, and again, I mean, the rushing style, I put more of a DeMarco Murray on him, but when you're pulling those comps from athletic and what you did in college standpoint, I think it's going to be pretty hard for Breece Hall to miss.
That's a Madden /NFL /Tecmo Mount Rushmore
of
sorts.
That's what I said. I was like, I don't feel. I mean, this is going to look funny, but going to press, but it's. What are you gonna? You can't be like, oh well, these are too good of comps. But when he earns it, he earns it.
So Cody, how important? Oh, Adam, go ahead.
I was going to say, are the Vikings going to trade 3 drafts worth of picks to go get him? Is that who traded for Herschel Walker? I can't remember. Was I even alive?
No, Minnesota. I'm the old one. Minnesota drafted Herschel Walker, and then Jimmy Johnson traded, or Dallas drafted. You got it right. Yeah. Dallas drafted Herschel Walker, traded him to Minnesota, and not only got the number of picks, but they got written into the rules. We could cut all those guys and get 1st-round picks instead. So I'll stop talking.
Yeah,
but
that was the
Walker.
Yeah, I don't want
who's now teaching evolution lessons or evolution history in his attempt to run for government, run for governor office. So,
I did see that.
Yeah. I wasn't sure what to think about evolution, but once Herschel Walker started talking, now I feel like I know.
He clarified it.
Brees Hall, landing spot. The CEH lesson seems to be a cautionary tale. He wasn't anybody's number one, like you guys both said, and then he was drafted by the perfect team and first round, everything else. Like now he was number one in all those rookie drafts. Once the draft flipped it, what do we need to have learned from that?
From would you said Brees Hall's landing spot?
Well, if Brees Hall, if somebody likes Walker, if somebody lets their quarterback make the pick, like happened with the Chiefs that night.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
If Walker ends up going in front of him and we all like that opportunity better and Hall is more seeming like, well, he's on a team that has someone else that we're drafting already. Do we want to ignore that or what?
So essentially, like if Kenneth Walker went to like Houston or Atlanta where the opportunity's there, and if Brees Hall goes to like a Dallas where it's like, hey,
Right.
he's going to mix him the next year. Like you're saying like that basically.
Right.
And that's the thing is like, it depends how you weigh it. And as a fantasy owner, it's like if Brees Hall goes to Dallas, and this is a hypothetical, obviously, if Brees Hall goes to Dallas and he's sitting there and he's splitting carries with Zeke for a year, and you can get Kenneth Walker, who's in Houston or Atlanta. Yeah, the teams are poor, but he's going to get 250 touches, 300 touches year one. That's something you got to weigh in. And these guys are pretty similar from an athletic standpoint and from an output standpoint in 2021. It's like, then you start having that conversation. And then if that happens, if that scenario happens, 100% people will be clicking that Kenneth Walker button over Brees Hall just because the athleticism did measure up. And that's the one question I had with Kenneth coming into the combine. The whole process was on tape. Honestly, he looked like he runs a 4.55, and then he comes out and he runs the 4.38. And it's like, okay, that's a different ball game here. But before the draft, not only landing spot again, Brees Hall overall, everything looks better on paper. But in that scenario, I would say Kenneth Walker would close the gap.
All right, Adam, I'm sorry for busting in on Herschel Walker. You had it.
No, I was just wondering. I was wondering.
You had it. Like, no, Minnesota had nothing to. All right, no, yes, they did. That was Minnesota was the whole point. Mike Lynn. Here's Cody, who's from Minnesota.
That's right.
I really should have sat that one out. All right, wide receivers. So many names. Much more competition for that top pick, right? Cody, are we going to see teams draft their top wide receiver like we've maybe seen a little bit the last couple of years based on body type or style or what fits best for their roster? And if that's generally right, like if the premise is right, that makes it really interesting to try to predict the first round.
Yeah, 100%. And I think they will too. So, we saw Ron Rivera go to the Ohio State Pro Day last week, and there's like only a handful of pro days I think he's been to outside of North Carolina in his entire time. I think it was like Cam Newton, maybe Patrick Peterson pro days. He was at that Ohio State one. A lot of people pointed to, Olave and Wilson, but Stroud was throwing, and, they might be in the quarterback market next year. And that's one where like, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to bring in a guy like Olave or a guy like Wilson in that offense when you have, Curtis Samuel, a Terry McLaurin, like you have a lot of guys in that same mold. That place, and with Carson Wentz, it's like I would see a Drake London or something like that going to Washington, right? And that's the body type that I would angle at. But maybe Washington doesn't feel the same way, right? Maybe Philadelphia doesn't feel the same way. Maybe everyone's going. It seems like the last couple of seasons they've been going away from that bigger body guy, and it's been your Devonta Smith, your Jamar Chase, your Jalen Waddle, and these guys seem to be getting smaller and smaller. We kind of labeled Matt Kelly kind of labeled this the archetype. It's these guys that are in that 5'10" to 6 foot, 185 to 200 pound range, and that's kind of where all these guys keep coming in outside of London and Burks in this class. But the landing spot thing is like that is what's really going to make it tough predicting where guys are going to land. Like I put a Dotson in Green Bay. That one feels right, but again, they could also go after a guy like a Pickens or a Watson because that kind of fits that mold of what Adams was or what a Jordy Nelson was. You look at like Tennessee, they had Corey Davis in there at one point. They have AJ Brown currently, who would fit on that other side playing in that wide position. That would be like a Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave, in my opinion. But they could also feel like, hey, we need to go out and we need to get another big bruising wide receiver like Corey Davis, but better. And then that's when you start having that, maybe Treylon Burks goes there. Like, and that's, I hope that kind of answers the question there. But I think it will depend on what the teams want to do and how they want to build. but I think it leaves a lot of question and caution in predicting where the landing spots are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. And you brought up the Ohio State Pro Day. Like, didn't McLaurin and Samuel both go to Ohio State? Like, maybe they just love those Ohio State kind of 5'10" to 6 foot receivers. I mean, Ohio State's they smash with the receivers and the corners for the most part too. It's just a place where you can almost lock those guys in that they're not gonna really bust.
Not to mention Jamison Williams.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Couldn't even make the cut at Ohio State. That's right.
Wow.
So, I really like the depth of this class. The first round, teams get they feel like they need these receivers at the end of the first round. Green Bay's got a couple spots to fill now, and you could see, a couple teams have a couple first round picks. You could see them making maybe they're getting two receivers. We'll see.
That's kind of what I thought too. I thought, like, with Green Bay, where they're sitting and where Kansas City's sitting, with their capital in those first 2 rounds, even Detroit, if they really wanted to do it, they could double down 32 and 34. But Green Bay sitting there, what are they at? 22 and 28, and then they're at 53. Like, they could hypothetically get a receiver at 53 and something in the 20s and go offensive line. Kansas City, the same thing. So, I mean, these two teams could definitely load up at receiver, and it wouldn't shock me at all.
So, Cody, so that we don't keep you all night, you've done a lot of research. You sent us that list of names. I mean, that is a very deep end list of names, about 8 or 10 guys that don't come up in these conversations usually. So I don't know what round of a rookie draft we're usually talking here, maybe third of the earliest. Who are 2 or 3 of your favorite deep end picks, if I may?
So Bo Melton right now is a guy out of Rutgers who's running that 4.3 40-yard dash. He's going off on mock drafts between 310 and 410 in super flex drafts. This guy, 4.3 40-yard dash, 5'11", 189 pounds. You may not have heard about him because he went to Rutgers, and Rutgers is, I mean, bottom of the barrel in college football from a production standpoint. He had 600 yards each of the last 2 seasons. He's had over 400 in the special teams game, 93rd percentile college target share, 81st percentile college dominator. We got him best comparable to Tyler Lockett on playerprofiler.com. When I was down at the Senior Bowl, kind of going into the Senior Bowl, me and my co-host on the Futurecast, Andy, talked about Bo Melton and being like, on film and on paper, yuck. Like, we're not fans of this guy. And then he shows up to the Senior Bowl, and the way the Jets used him in practice all week, it was telling about who he was as a prospect and who he was as an NFL player. They used him literally in like that Braxton Berrios role the whole week in practice. He was getting jet sweeps. He was getting bubble screens. He was going downfield. This guy can do everything. And so Bo Melton there, like I said, going off between 310 and 410 in these rookie drafts with an average ADP of 38. That's the dart I want to throw late in these rookie drafts at a receiver. 5'11", 189 pounds. He's not undersized. He's going to come in and he's going to get the opportunities early and often because he's willing to work. And this is one of my favorite later round prospects.
Cody, real quick, how much do you think college quarterback has to do? Because, I got this list about an hour before the show, and a couple of these guys I'd heard of, but Bo Melton wasn't on my radar. I went and I just watched, YouTube on him, and he looked, like you said, he looked really, really good. He only scored 3 times, and I'm watching him run. He ran like a sluggo, and the quarterback almost threw it out of the back of the end zone. I mean, he had to tiptoe. He kind of reminds me of like a DJ Chark. Chark's bigger and stuff like that, but his quarterback in college was terrible, and then he goes to the Senior Bowl, and I think he won MVP at the Senior Bowl. He just lit it up. Do you think college quarterbacks can really hold these guys back?
100%. That's something like, there's another guy, Jalen Tolbert, went to South Alabama. He fought against that and he had 1,400 yards. So like, he can fight against it, but then you're at a situation like Rutgers where Bo Melton was actually a 4-star prospect. He had the opportunities and offers from Penn State, Michigan, Oregon, Ohio State, actually. And he chose to go to Rutgers. And it was kind of just like a weird thing. Like, why would you do that when, like you said, the quarterback situations are going to be vastly different at those other schools? And they have another guy, Isaiah Pacheco, that played running back. That's another elite athlete. And the quarterback situations, wherever you play, like you said, one of the most important aspects of college football and getting yourself to that next level, right? You think about Clemson right away. You think about Clemson always turning out these big receivers. You think about Ohio State always turning out these receivers. And what is the thing that you always see with that? quarterbacks: Deshaun Watson, Kelly Bryant, Trevor Lawrence, Ohio State, Dewey Haskins, back to Troy Smith, everyone all the way through the whole process. It's just building that franchise up, or that organization up. And at Rutgers, it just isn't like that. And you saw that on the tape. That's why it was such a hard one to watch, because it's when the quarterback plays bad in college. I mean, I don't know what there is, 300-400 quarterbacks that have to play college football every year. There's going to be some bad ones. And that's like you said, outside of your own talent, like, you can't throw yourself the ball. So,
right. That's right.
Opportunity here to mention the name Cardale Jones, Adam.
Yes. Yeah. Oh gosh.
what was the
Ohio
quote?
State.
And a great bill.
We ain't here to play school. Isn't that the quote?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Well, Cody, learned a lot. It's so nice to hear from you and talk to you tonight. Follow Cody at Carpentier NFL, playerprofile.com. You can tell, I think, if you're listening and watching tonight, how much there is to learn from him. So thank you, buddy. And we'll see you in Canton at the latest.
Most definitely. I appreciate you guys having me on. Always a great time.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Our pleasure. All right, Cody. So the draft is 1 month from tonight, and time to get back to the books, Adam, and start over. And
I know.
Regrind.
Yeah, regrind. Yeah, no, that's such good stuff. And just to list a guy, like, I'm gonna start diving into those names, and it's funny because the cool thing about dynasty drafts too is the slow drafts. It gives you time to be like, okay, we're in the third round, and I'm out of players that I've even heard of or that I'm confident in. It's time to, it gives you time to kind of go look at kind of the stuff that Cody's doing and stuff that they're doing at Draft Sharks, and say, okay, these guys have been grinding the film. These guys have been finding guys at Rutgers whose quarterback stinks, who might be good.
Well, and that's interesting too, because most of my dynasty leagues offer cut veterans as well in those same drafts. I mean, one or two will do them separately, but most will blend in the guys that were cut from rosters with the rookies. And it just seems to me like it's almost never worth it to pick those guys, players who, it's often tight ends, I think, or backup quarterbacks that have not emerged and done well enough in the league to deserve to be protected in rosters like that. So I think usually you're better off taking that shot on a rookie that maybe you've never heard or read anything about. Yeah.
And Austin says, how do people not like Tyler Goodson? Well, let me tell you something. He likes Tyler Goodson. That was on the list. He didn't get to Tyler Goodson, but yeah, he does like Tyler Goodson as well. I also like Tyler Beatty's another one that I think is underrated. He reminds me, a little bit of like a CEH, like a short, stout, great balance, a nose for the end zone. I like Tyler Beatty too. So it's a couple of late round guys there.
I'm more in the Scott Connor mold, which he was on with us last week, and he said, I let other people do that work.
Sure.
Like if NFL teams can't tell the difference when they draft these guys, who's good, who's not, then I'm not going to pretend to be able to do it. But if you consume enough information from the likes of yourself, Adam, and Cody and others, then you're going to have a list. And I think what you think can work against you in these drafts. It's better for me. It's more sort of comfortable for me to take that consensus, and then, like, a lot of us are drafting enough teams where you can get that diversity too, and end up with guys that you don't know a lot about, but that other people have stumped for.
Yeah, I completely agree. I love using like comparisons to like fantasy football, like poker. And it's like you can you've got your first round picks. Those are your pocket aces, your big slick suited, and then you can get into a hand with 9-10 offsuit and hope to hit that straight. But you play enough of those, you're going to lose enough money. And so yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. Go with the good hands, because that's what the pros say to play.
What is Big Slick? Ace King?
Ace King. That's my nickname, Mike. I don't know if you know that. I have what's one of my nicknames around these here parts. Big Slick. Okay.
Let's comp you and I to poker players. So if you, it's been a long time since I paid close attention to the poker sphere.
Okay.
But I put myself on Phil Locke, I think.
For who? You?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Unabomber. Put the thing up. I'm more of a Phil Locke. I see it. Yep. Oh yeah. Lock it in. Lock it in. No pun intended. Lock it in. I'm more of a Phil Hellmuth guy, Mike. I like to complain all the time about other players. I know you can't imagine that, but I'm more of a Phil Hellmuth
Instincts.
guy.
Who's
Instinct. Listen, Phil Hellmuth said, if luck wasn't involved, I'd win every time, and that's the way I look at it.
that's your justification for hitting on 15 against a 5?
I gotta tell you, I went to the casino over the weekend.
unlucky.
I went to the casino this last weekend. Instincts were not. I was not very instinctive over the weekend.
Hashtag math.
Oh,
you must have been unlucky.
hashtag
You
by
must-
the book.
You must
That's
have been
right.
unlucky then. That's supposed to that
That's
must have
very
been it.
unlucky.
All right. Send us your comments at DeepEndFF1 on Twitter. Adam, we have guests coming up the next couple of weeks as we get closer to the draft. You want to mention that?
Yeah, we do have some guests. I've been in contact with, the Draft Shark guys are always right around the corner whenever we need them. But I've been talking with Dynasty League football, DLF football. We're going to get them on here in the next couple weeks. And next week we're going to have Fantasy Mojo on. He's going to break down so tonight, we got to get to it. Tonight is Dynasty cut down day. So you got to get your rosters down to 16 players tonight. So
I have one cut left. Do you want to weigh in?
I have one team left to cut two guys on, but I think I know who.
All right.
Go on.
Let's do these because
Let's do it.
I don't know which to cut. Who to cut?
Okay.
Jarvis Landry or Corey Davis?
Oh, I would say I would cut Corey Davis.
I think so too.
Because Jarvis Landry is like a lottery ticket, right? He might end up in a really sweet spot.
That's
know
right.
what I mean?
And he'll probably get a pretty good contract, and that would mean he's going to matter for somebody. I like Davis, and I think there's a pretty good chance he's, playable with the Jets. It's best ball, but I think I like Landry a little bit more, a little bit safer, even though it's maybe ironic because he's not on a team yet, but I feel that way about him. I would pick Landry over Davis too, but it's close. How about you?
So I have to cut two of these three players. FFPC tight end premium. It's super flex. Not that it matters. I'm not going to give you a quarterback, but Raheem Mostert, Jamison Crowder, Robert Tonyan.
You have to cut two?
I have to cut two, and my only other tight end is Dallas Goedert.
I'd keep Tonyan, and unless I was like 4 good running backs in, this is a cut to 16, I assume. I would cut Crowder.
I have 18. I need to cut two of them, so it's Crowder and Mostert then.
Yeah, I would cut Crowder.
Yeah, I've got Ridley taking up a spot on the bench. I've been getting low ball offers for Ridley.
Yeah,
Matt Schauf sending me low ball offers. Okay,
what's he offering?
He offered me a second next year or something. Like Ridley, what's Ridley? 28? He's not. You
know what? I think I would take it.
You would?
Yeah. Is he good? Like, is Matt good? Probably is.
Yeah.
Is Matt.
Yeah. Matt Schauf.
Pick 20 next year.
Yeah, but if it was a second round pick this year, that'd be one thing. I can use it next year. It's like next year you're going to ask me, hey, would you rather have Calvin Ridley who's going to play or a second round pick?
It's such a much better pool, though. I think next year
could be.
Well, I don't think you have to do it, but I don't think I hate it. How about that for middling it? I would cut Crowder because McKenzie. Because how many catches is it? He's not going to be 2020 Beasley. I think they could still draft somebody. I think they should in Buffalo to fill out that passing game, that offense. And Mostert, he never stays healthy, but some of that is fluky, and he's just so fast on a team that doesn't have a clear-cut answer. So
I might just turn around and draft Mike. I got offered. I just got an offer, a 4th round pick this year and a 4th round pick next year for Robert Tonyan. That would save those two guys from me cutting them, but
that I wouldn't do. I think he might be playable, and you're shallow at tight end. You're not going to draft a rookie tight end that's going to mean anything. So
correct.
I think I would keep him, and I would take a chance on Mostert. I think Crowder is pretty replaceable.
Yeah. I like Crowder in redraft best ball in the 14th, 15th round. I think he's fine because he could get the Beasley role from last year, 2 years ago. And that's exactly where Beasley was being drafted. So I'm okay with that. But, these cuts to 16, man, these are just brutal. There's so many, especially super flex. Like I'm keeping 3 quarterbacks. I got Allen, Burrow, and I'm keeping Jameis Winston, so it's like,
Yeah,
that's 3 spots are right there. So,
well, you should, right? I mean, that's easy.
Yeah.
That's an easy decision.
yeah,
I think I really like that about that format, FFPC Dynasty, to cut to 16. It is hard. I mean, good players get cut on all kinds of teams.
Right.
So it makes the draft a little bit more interesting, and it's a good format, I think.
for sure.
Okay, so as I was saying, send us your comments if you have any at Adam Krautwurst, at Mike Shope, or at Shope Talk, in fact, on Twitter, and we'd love to read them. And then next week is Tuesday for High Stakes. We'll talk about, that new league is going to fit into both shows probably, but more of a, maybe a lean toward the Dynasty show with the draft being a month away. And we will talk a lot about prospects and strategy here in the coming month.
Yeah,
So-
and real quick too, I don't know if I mentioned Mojo's coming on next week, and he's going to break down all of the players that were cut from Dynasty. He's going to crunch all those numbers after tonight, and we'll be able to do a little deep dive on that next Thursday night.
That's good. I know he's been tweeting today, or at least once he did, that Dalton Schultz was a popular cut last year with Blake Jarwin there, and that made sense to me. But Schultz was very productive, and now you would never do that. And maybe Tunyon is that
guy.
Maybe he's this year's Dalton Schultz.
There you go.
No fourths. Get the fourths out of here, right?
I
Get
know.
the 4th round pick offers.
We don't want any fourths.
Good luck and good night. Good night and good luck, I should have said. That's the
right.
line. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you on Tuesday.
See you guys.